We're joined by Lanny Davis, former special counsel to President Clinton. He is joining us from Washington, D.C. Lanny, it's so good to see you. This is turning out to be a case study in what not to do when managing a crisis. I don't mean to laugh, but they're still not getting so many parts of this right.
Well, the rules of crisis management, if I can shamelessly plug my book, the first rule in Crisis Tales is get all the facts out and then fess up if you've done something wrong, if you've messed up, and then fix the problem. And I have been a supporter of the Affordable Care Act for a very long time, way back even before Hillary Clinton introduced a national health insurance plan. My dad talked to me about the fairness that everybody should have access to health care. But I've done some rethinking, and if I have, as a liberal Democrat, every other Democrat needs, in crisis management terms, to hit the reset button and start to look for a bipartisan solution to fixing some of these problems.
In terms of bipartisan solution, and you pointed this out, that private companies and insurance companies have been in the business of operating private exchanges, and they should have already, the White House should have invited these private exchanges into trying to fix this problem. But again, then that would be a concession by the Democrats that they like private business and private business can do it as well as the federal government. That's something that they might not want to admit.
It's hard to understand why they don't want to admit it, because the Department of Health and Human Services, Secretary Sebelius, issued a very tough regulation regulating these private websites, such as ehealth.com, which is my client, severely regulated, requiring them to display all the insurance plans, even those they didn't have commission agreements with. So the regulation is in place. They signed a detailed agreement in August, yet President Obama hasn't once ever mentioned a private sector solution until he talked about insurance companies, which are only going to sell their own policies, whereas these websites are like Amazon.com. They display all the insurance plans. Why the resistance to websites in the private sector helping solve this problem? It's about a fear of competition by the private sector, by government bureaucrats who want to preserve their own territory, rather than the goal of the legislation is to sign people up.
Do you think that the White House and the people in the administration, Lanny, completely understand the fear that some individuals are experiencing? Because the policy wonks will talk about, oh, the vast majority of Americans are insured under their employers, and they look at this in terms of pure numbers. It's not that many Americans as a percentage, but I know people who are losing their insurance at the end of the year, and they are flipped out. These are people with health problems that they won't be covered come January 1 because they aren't able to sign up.
Again, I have to start out everything I say, especially on this program, that I support President Obama, voted for him, support the Affordable Care Act. But there's nothing worse than a message that suggests that only 5%, only 5 million people are threatened, or 10, or 15. How about one that is promised something that isn't given what the promise was? You're not going to lose your policy. So we Democrats, this is our mess. We have to hit the reset button, find Republicans to work with on the private sector solution as a partner with government, not replacing government. And if President Obama is watching this program, I have reason to doubt that, at least hear my voice that as a liberal, pro-Obama, Affordable Care Act Democrat, I'm saying use private sector exchanges today to directly connect to the federal government and sign people up through a direct connection the way states are allowed to, and not to use insurance companies which are going to sell their own policies rather than these private sector exchanges that have been successful for many years.
Lanny, it was great to see you. Making a lot of sense in a situation that's hard to make sense of these days. Lanny Davis, the book is Crisis Tales. He gave you just a little taste of it there. Lanny, be well.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to talk about the economy.